this video, I would like to discuss work permit delays. Many of you who are going through an immigration process have probably noticed that it's taking a very long time to receive your work permit. And so I would like to discuss that in this video, and then also give you some important tips and tricks that you can use in navigating the immigration process, specifically as it relates to delays surrounding work permits. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe. We regularly post content and updates. Our firm is dedicated exclusively to assisting couples. And last but not least, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube will share this information with others who can benefit. All right, what is going on with work permits? The delays are very, very significant, and we are seeing backlogs and delays across the board with immigration applications. We know that it is so important for you to be able to receive your work permit, especially for those who have no other status in the United States. It feels like you're in a state of limbo. In a lot of states, you won't be able to receive a driver's license, and then of course you can't work. And so in this video, I really want to break down some tips that you can use in navigating these difficulties. And so if you are a client of our firm, rest assured we are using these tools in your case. We are regularly pestering immigration to find out what is going on, to get updates, and to move your case along. First and foremost, though, before I get into all of that, I do want to let you know that yes, unfortunately, this is normal right now. This is considered the new normal, these long delays. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we definitely want to let you know the truth so you aren't worried that it's just your case, that there's something wrong with your case. These delays are systemic, they're across the board, and we're seeing work permit delays in all cases. And so the first tip that I have for you, so tip number one, is to make an outside of normal processing times request. I know that's a mouthful, but it is a tool on the USCIS website. So if you go to the USCIS website, they have several tools, and one of them is make an outside of normal processing times request. I have a separate video on this YouTube channel that actually walks you through how to make an outside of normal processing times request, and I will post that below. But that is what you do to check and see, okay, this is the processing times that immigration is estimating, that it'll take between X amount of months to X amount of months. So say 3 to 6, for example, that it'll take that long to receive a decision. And then next to that, they will list a date for your receipt notice that you can actually make an inquiry. And so we do that for all of our clients. As soon as it's outside of normal processing, we make those requests. So please know that this is a great tool, but it doesn't mean that if you make this request that they will automatically make a decision on your application. It is just kind of a way to poke immigration and say, hey, where are you at with my case? Where are you at with my case? Frequently, they will respond saying, rest assured, we're working on it. And sometimes we have to make multiple requests month after month. Typically, they say they'll respond within so many weeks. And then at the end of that, they will send a response that says we're working on it. And then you're allowed to keep making those requests. So again, it's a great tool, but not a final solution to getting a decision on your case. You should definitely use the tool, though, if your case is outside of normal processing times. The second tip I have, the second thing you can do, is to call USCIS. And so I know that calling USCIS often is difficult because it's hard to get past the robot to be able to talk to a live agent. And also the caveat that I want to give with this is calling USCIS, typically the person that's on the phone has limited information. Know that the person who is answering the phone, who is speaking with you, they are not an immigration officer. They don't have access to your whole file, and they can't give you legal advice. And it's very important to understand that typically they're just going to be reading the case status that you see online. Is really, they're very limited. Still, we still want to let you know that calling USCIS, that's still a tool that exists. And sometimes we do use that phone number. Not sometimes, we have hundreds of clients, we use it a lot. But it is a tool that can be used, but just know its limitations. The third option would be something called an ombudsman request. And so that office is basically a quality assurance department. And they look into issues that individuals are having in their immigration case, so they can see if that something is broken in the immigration system that needs to be fixed. So yes, work permit delays, that's definitely something that's broken in the immigration system that needs to be fixed. And so making a request through the ombudsman office, they have an online form that you can make that request. I will post that in the show notes below as well if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. And basically it's an online request. You let them know, hey, my case is outside of normal processing times and I haven't received any kind of decision. And so before you can make that request, you have to do something called exhausting your administrative resources or remedies, which is a fancy way of saying they require that you reach out to USCIS first to resolve your issue. You can't skip to this step. So that's why I mentioned the tools of the USCIS outside of normal processing and the USCIS contact center. So you need to make that request. Typically, I would say make a few, maybe 2 or 3 months, to be able to show you've tried contacting USCIS several times, you're outside of normal processing times, and they still continue to say, we're working on it. And then that's when you could use this tool. Again, please know that this isn't an end-all be-all solution. It can definitely help. It's a tool you should use. It is a tool that we use. Currently the Ombudsman website appears that they are not taking any requests for work permits that are outside of normal processing. We are still making these requests, and I encourage you to do the same. It's very important to let them know that you've been waiting a long time for your work permit, longer than the processing times. You've tried to reach out to immigration if that happens to be your position and you haven't received anything. The fourth thing you can do is to receive congressional assistance. And so that is a way that you can reach out to your congressional representative. You can Google that and find out who your representatives are, and also to figure out what their process is for making a request. Again, it's a requirement that you reach out to USCIS, that you have tried to resolve it with them before you make the congressional request. The congressional representative, they can't force USCIS to make a decision, but if you get them involved, it's a great way for them to be in contact with immigration to get you some clarity about what is going on with your immigration case. The congressional representative inquiries, they can definitely be helpful. Again, that's not a magic solution, but it's definitely something you can try. And typically that has to be after you've tried everything possible to remedy it with USCIS. Typically they will reach out to immigration, and sometimes they'll come back to you and say immigration says that they're working on it, USCIS is reviewing it. That's hard to hear, that's frustrating. I want to be optimistic, and so we definitely want to use that tool and see if it can kind of move things along. Last is an expedite request. And so please know that the expedite requests are not for everyone. They're for a very, very, very limited section of cases. They're very rare that you can use it. An expedite request, immigration is very clear on the work permit that it's only for very extreme cases, very extreme circumstances. And believe me, I completely agree that being in a state of limbo and not being able to work for many, many months, that's extreme. Unfortunately, immigration has made it clear that they don't consider that to be an extreme situation for an expedite. One of the examples that they give for the expedite request is extreme financial hardship, extreme financial loss, urgent humanitarian reasons, compelling government interests. So you can see these are very, very specific, unique cases that there won't be very many of them that can actually receive an expedite request approval. Also be very careful and the expedite request, because expedite requests, if you try to do that for severe, extreme financial hardship, it can negatively impact your case in terms of the I-864 affidavit of support, where an immigrant has to show they won't be a public charge. So be very careful, because it can send conflicting information to immigration. Basically, you're saying, I won't be a public charge and I can support myself. And then if you try to do an expedite on the work permit for 765, saying you have severe financial hardship, it can cause issues on that front. So just be aware of that. I'm not saying that you couldn't make an expedite request, but definitely make sure you speak with an attorney before you do that, to see if that's even a viable option for your case. So those are 5 tools that you can use for these delayed work permits. Again, unfortunately, none of them is a magic solution, but they are tools that you should definitely use to keep things moving, to keep pestering immigration, to keep your case on track. I want to give you some hope too. I know that it's hard to hear that this is normal and that there isn't a magic solution, but to give you some hope, we deal with immigration on a daily basis. This is what we dedicate our lives to. And what we are seeing is that immigration really is working internally to solve some of these systemic issues that they have with extreme backlogs. So this is educated speculation on my part, but what we are seeing is that they are making concerted efforts to make things better. And I'll give you a few examples of what we are seeing. What we are seeing is that immigration is trying to do things like reusing biometrics, reusing fingerprints that people already have in the system from fingerprint appointments they've had before. Reusing those biometrics appointments is great, because then that means they can move on to the next step in your case without having to take biometrics again. The more people that have to go for those appointments, that does not help the backlog. Also, we are seeing that immigration is going to be issuing work permits for a 2-year period instead of a 1-year period. This is great, because then there'll be less work permit renewals happening, they'll be happening less frequently. And so that will definitely help with the backlog as well. And then immigration is doing other unique things, like for individuals who are renewing their green card, they're sending them an automatic extension of their green card while they wait for the next one. It limits the amount of contact that a person has to have with immigration, so it frees them up to be able to address the backlog. And last but not least, we are seeing faster processing times in some case types, specifically the I-130, and in some cases the I-751 removal of conditions. So we are seeing some faster processing times in those cases, so we can see that immigration is trying to address the backlogs. And we hope that they can continue improving and prioritizing all of the cases that they have and moving things forward, so you can receive your work permit as soon as possible. Best of luck with your case. Thanks for watching.